functional block in a digital communication system, and the, you can say, the different aspect of, you can say, this particular block formulation, like in channel modeling or channel, you can say, impedance, along with, you can say, the different kind of systems which you make use of this digital communication, whether it's a satellite communication, whether it's a radar, it's a, you can say, a mobile or any other, you can say, use that they do. We try to, you can say, have a understanding that how this each system and what its importance, in fact, like you have your you can say, corresponding to, I mean, fiber optic signals, you have satellite, you have other, how they are in which particular area of communication they can be used, and what are the still some limitations also we discussed. You can say some open-ended problem which are still, industries finding to trying to find solutions. And I think you appreciate everywhere, uh, any company or any, you can say, organization, or the benchmark, you can say, of, this particular whole, you can say, technology innovations or technology development is, we want to transmit more information into given bandwidth. The kind of, you can say, data that is being transmitted and that information that is being generated, I hope you know that. I think to give you an idea about, I know you might be reading on internet or other things also, but whatever, you can say, information that was generated in the whole of the century, in the last, let's say, 1900, you can say, 20th century, that information now can be generated within a week, in fact, almost. So look at the kind of the data or information that is getting developed. Now, it's a easier, of course, at a technologist, you can say that, of course, yes, everyone is on, you can say, using data. Everyone is using, you can say, internet-based applications or other things. But if you analyze a different kind of, you can say, domain, different kind of dimensions it gives rise to. Because more information does not mean more knowledge. Knowledge, you have to understand what this information is and how best this information can be used. Of course, we can't control, you can say, neither information generation nor its, use also to some extent, because all type of, people are there, all type of, you can say, goals, aims, motivations are there. But for each individual, it's very important to understand that this data or information generation that is taking place at a level, first of all, technological challenges, how do you handle this information in our systems, and mostly the digital systems, then the storage, then the processing, or so many other things, security or other things, in fact. And you will come to know that most of the companies now, coming to campus placements or something also, one way or other way, they are dealing with these challenges. Okay, so let us start with now our formally fiber optic channels, you can say. The first question when you talk about fiber optic channel is, uh, they have a larger bandwidth than coaxial cable channels. Okay, that's a statement you also perhaps understand and know it also. But if I ask you the question, like, why they have why optical fiber has larger bandwidth than the coaxial cables? Because signal is propagating at the same, you can say, velocity of light, electromagnetic signal it is, whether it's an optical fiber or it's a coaxial cable. Okay, so what decides the large, you can say, bandwidth of a system? Anyone, any student among you who are at least listening to this conversation, any student, what determines the bandwidth of a let's say channel, in this case fiber, or we are talking about coaxial cable, we can talk about signals also, but at least right now for the channels, let us, because that's the crux of, everything now. Because larger the bandwidth, larger is the data speed you will have. But the fundamental question is, what determines my larger bandwidth? Suppose I want to transmit my signal, let us say at 2000 kilohertz. Why can't I have more bandwidth there? Yes, students, at least some of you should, even if it's wrong, use your mind and try to answer. No answer is coming.
Sir, can you please repeat the question?
The question is like optical fiber has larger bandwidth than the coaxial cable or some other form of, you can say, cables. The question is, what determines the bandwidth of a channel? Like
The
suppose I want
frequency of propagating wave.
frequency. Why frequency? Frequency is a carrier. It will
The
determine.
rate at which the information is transmitted.
Rate is about speed, not bandwidth. The question try to understand it. Suppose I have a, let's say, a 2 megahertz signal, or let's say, 2000 kilohertz signal. I want to transmit more information at that level. Why can't I transmit more information there? Why I have to go to optical, frequencies? So what determines the bandwidth of, information carrying capacity of a channel? Let us say, let in another way, if you can appreciate it, that how much a channel can support, how much speed. All of us know that fiber can support high speed.
So
Why?
loss is less.
Huh? Yes.
Because of attenuation loss is
Less
less.
loss.
Yes.
Losses you can always negotiate with repeaters or regenerators. I mean, I think technically, if you speak, maybe we will put more repeaters, so that can be handled on.
So because in optical fiber, the transmission takes place at the speed of light.
The same thing goes with the coaxial cable also. It's electromagnetic signal. Electromagnetic signal also passes through, you can say, the same EM waves. You know about that.
Yes, sir.
The voice signal or data signal, it's every electromagnetic signal. It is modulated or non modulated, you can say, some way. Some electrical signal it will be. Any other student?
The data is transmitted at long distance without attenuation in optical fiber.
But yeah,
Comparatively longer distances.
yeah, longer distance because losses are less. But in the coaxial cable, we can have more regenerators. Let us say rather than 20 kilometer, I'll have a 10 kilometer. If it can support higher speed, can it support higher speed? That's the question. It cannot, in fact.
Sir, the resistance will.
Resistance, of course, will lead to some attenuation or some delays, है ना? Some
So the
intersymbol interference
wave will not be able to propagate. I mean, they will oscillate.
because of resistance. Why it should oscillate?
Sir, if it is AC signal,
AC signal, you know about transmission line. I hope you must have studied in electromagnetic course transmission lines. How signal propagates along a transmission line. Whether it's twisted pair, coaxial cable, or optical fiber, or any channel. Okay.
So because optical fiber transmits signal in form of light and coaxial cable transmits signal in form of electrical signals.
But that's again, optical light is also electromagnetic signal, isn't it? Optical signals are also electromagnetic signal,
Yes.
and velocity of, you can say, propagation is same for both of them. Velocity of light. Anyway, I think at least good. I mean, some of you at least tried to try to understand what determines the bandwidth. Suppose you have an FM station, okay? You have a carrier of, let us say, 95 megahertz. Now, 95 megahertz is the carrier. How much information it can carry on? What information carrying means? You will modulate it with some signal. You can say useful signal, like in our case, it's a music, or you can say voice. So what happens when you modulate it? How much its frequency it can vary on? Plus minus 10%. Okay, let us say in very optimum case. So how much 95 plus minus 10? It's very small. some few, you can say, kilohertz. Okay, because I mean, if you let us say modulate this particular 95 megahertz with a, you can say, some gigahertz signal, obviously it will not be able to carry forward it. What happens in optical fiber? Why optical fiber has larger bandwidth is because optical fiber operating frequency is very high. How much it is? It's 100 of gigahertz. Okay, hundreds of gigahertz. If you calculate 5% of 100 of gigahertz, how much it comes out? It comes out to be 5 gigahertz. If you calculate 10, it is more than that. Plus minus 10 is 20 gigahertz. So 20 gigahertz, how much, you know, information it can carry on? I mean, at least if you have a very elementary idea, 1 bit to 1, let's say, hertz frequency. That's a very nominal, you can say. So at least it can support 20 gigahertz. But look at 95 megahertz. If you transmit that information plus minus 5, how much is, you can say, plus minus 9, 5, some few hundred kilohertz you will have. So how much information you can transmit? You can transmit some few hundred kilohertz of, I mean, kilobits of information. So it's because of, you can say, it's operational frequency, you can say, which enables it to have larger information carrying capacity. The same example you can understand in case of mobiles also. Like mobile, earlier on you had 900 megahertz GSM. Now we are moving towards 4G and 5G. 5G are operating at 30 gigahertz, 40 gigahertz, 50 gigahertz. You might say, why we are going to this high frequency range? Because we want to increase the speed. Where can we get the increased speed? When we have a larger frequency, operating frequency, so that more information we can transmit. Is the logic clear to everyone?
So would you
Yes,
please
sir.
repeat, sir?
It's a very important concept. In fact, when you any information signal, you can say, you transmit across any channel, you have a carrier always. Then carrier you modulate, whether it's a amplitude, frequency, phase, or, you know, any kind of, you can say, parameter you take on. So what it varies, you know, it varies amplitude or frequency. So how much variations normally takes place, you can say, to the central carrier frequency. That is hardly 5 plus minus 5% or plus minus maybe 10%. So that means a 100 kilohertz signal will have 20 kilohertz of bandwidth. 20 kilohertz bandwidth, how much information I can support? I can maybe 20 kilobits per second. The same logic if you apply at optical fiber signal is also modulated, you understand? Because our data is put on to some, you know, optical carrier. So optical carrier, if you have a, let's say, 100 gigahertz, and you take, you can say, plus minus 10% there, this becomes 20 gigahertz. 20 gigahertz signal can support how much bandwidth or speed? Minimum it can support at least 20 gigabits. So 20 gigabits is obviously enormous, you can say, information carrying capacity than 100 kilobits per second. That is why we have to shift for larger, you can say, bandwidth, or larger, you can say, information carrying capacity. We have to move towards larger, you can say, operating frequencies. The same logic applies in case of your 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G also. Like you might be reading in the newspaper, like 5G is a very, very, you can say, promising technology, which will connect everything, you can say, in this globe. Maybe billions of devices. I think everything will be connected to, you can say, your, you know, network. So what you need there, you need more speed there, more information carrying capacity. More information carrying capacity means I have to operate at higher frequency ranges. That is why this particular 5G, you know, operational frequencies are going as high as 100 gigahertz. So 100 gigahertz, if you take, at least you will have 10 gigahertz of, you know, frequency, or maybe 20 gigahertz, or 20 Gbps speed in wireless media you will have. And again, I think you should try to understand, I hope you understand circuit switch and packet switching concept, basic telecommunication concept. I hope you know about little bit PCM, you have studied automatic exchanges, how the, you know, the signal is routed through the exchanges. If not, at least have some idea about it, because you need to understand that why packet switching, why, you can say, ATM or other now kind of, you know, switching devices are coming up. Everything is interlinked. So this, in case of 5G also, we are going to, you can say, 50 gigahertz, 60 gigahertz, maybe 100 gigahertz to increase the information carrying capacity of the channel. Again, I think if you want to read about it, there is what is called Shannon channel capacity theorem. I hope if you have not studied till now. नाम सुना है? Shannon का नाम तो सुना होगा सबने आपने.
No, sir.
Shannon, you must have a great, you can say, mathematician in, you can say, 1950s, 1948 around. He defined the capacity, how much a channel can carry information. And he defined this channel capacity C as equal to bandwidth multiplied by log to 1 plus signal to noise ratio, bits per second. That means the upper limit of any channel, depending upon its bandwidth and signal to noise ratio trade-off, you can say, sir, this channel cannot support more than that. If it will, have more, then there will be some errors. It's a very fundamental, you can say, concept in digital communication, because that determined how much information a channel can. So like, your 5G phone, how much information it can transmit. Again, you can say, you go to channel capacity theorem. There are many other aspects of that also. Rate of information generation and capacity. What can be the, you can say, the corresponding relationship. But I think we will cover it when it comes. But right now you can understand is the larger information carrying capacity I can have if I am operating at larger carrier frequencies. That's a very simple relationship. Because then that carrier frequency variation, the signal I am modulating, whether it's a frequency or phase or anything, that variations which enables me to carry more information, that will be at least very high. So like in case of optical fiber, 10 to the power 14 or something, frequency that they operate on. So how much it becomes thousands of gigahertz frequency. Thousands of gigahertz frequency, if you take even 5%, it's a very enormous bandwidth you can have. So at least 500 gigabits you can support on. Is it clear? Or any other query you have in your mind? It's an important concept. I think a communication student should understand it, that the information carrying capacity for any system is determined by, and depending upon the requirement, you can say design the systems. Okay, read it again if you have anything not clear. You can discuss maybe in the next lecture. So the transmitter modulator in the optical fiber communication system is light source. I think each of you know that about. Again here, what you need to know is light emitting diode, all of you know. What I can say about, I know it's electronic part, but student can't even distinguish between a PN junction and you can say LED or some other kind of tunnel diode or Zener diode. Diode even is not somewhere I find some student is struggling. That how is the light emitting diode you can say emits a blue light or red light, or what is this white light concept? Why it took so many years? जो LED लाइट आई हमारे, आई होप यू आर रीडिंग, LED लाइट्स जो पिछले 5-10 साल में आई हैं, वो बहुत पहले क्यों नहीं आ गई? What was the reason? These are the things, if you are a technology student, you need to perhaps appreciate those things, like how did it happen? How you reconstruct white light. Little bit of television, if you have studied. But anyway, but read about this light emitting and laser also. Laser is a coherent source. Coherent source means the signal will have same frequency and phase relationship among themselves. Again, of course, in another courses you'll be studying about, but that's again a new, a very, very fruitful area, you can say, still, where people are working a lot, in fact, a lot around the world, to improve upon, you can see, the sources, efficiency, or other things. Information is transmitted by varying, modulating the intensity of the light source with the message signal. The light propagates to the fiber as a light wave and is amplified periodically along the transmission path to compensate for the signal attenuation. I don't know how many of you know about it. Thoda yadi tumne optical fiber, I think you have a course. Students, maybe 50 years back, in 1970, nobody even gave optical fiber a chance to be used as a channel. If you have studied about it, you will come to know about it, that the losses were so high, 100 dB, or you can say more, somewhere you can say more than 100 dB losses per kilometer in 1970. So nobody gave it, nobody was even thinking about it. Everyone, developments were in, you can say, coaxial cable or twisted pair or this electrical cables, or you can say satellite communication. Suddenly, some people, of course, again, they made it possible. From 100 dB per kilometer losses, they have been reduced to how much now? It's less than 1 dB. 100 times improvement. And that is how you are having fiber, and your generation is having, you can say, a lot of this information luxury, in fact, you can call it. I mean, comparison to 50 years back, where, I mean, you had to work on, you can say, very low speeds. Even if you look at how SMS came, short mail services, because the system could not support, you can say, longer messages. So you had to obviously send, 3-4, you can say, words or 4 sentence or something. So have a little bit perspective about technology development also. I think as a student, as a technical student, you need to understand that how things have reached to this level. Little bit of development perspective, that how technology, different kind of technology have converged, different kind of technology have, complemented each other or reinforced each other, so that we are having all now a technological era, you can say, digital era. Okay, any question? In fact, another question I raised about probably in next first lecture on amplified periodically. I asked you about, suppose you have a, 30% of the earth is only, you can say, land, 70% is water. So signal is traveling across the sea water, about sea cables, fiber cables. So how we are amplifying then in the sea? The signal, where you can say water, most of the signal traffic is going through only these cables across the world, internet. So how this amplification is happening? This question should come to your mind. You can't go to, you can say, 3 kilometer in the bottom of the sea and then you can, do something. That's humanly impossible. So what kind of technological people have designed so that, these amplifications are periodically possible? Okay. At the receiver, the light intensity is detected by the photodiode, whose output is again electrical signal. Again, photodiode, this particular technology, still you can say have a lot of, people are struggling to improve it, because every day people want more speed, more speed, more speed. And these photodiodes, they have their own limitations. So like gallium arsenide they are using, but there also, I mean, they can't go beyond certain, you can say, nanosecond or more than that. So still, if they can improve upon that, obviously that will be an advantage to the company who designs these kind of systems, whose output is an electrical signal that varies in direct proportion to the power of the light. A very, I think many concepts you'll be studying in your different courses, but some of the concept you need to perhaps appreciate as a communication engineer. Source of noise in optical fiber channels are photodiodes and electronic amplifier, because wherever you will have electrons, you will have currents, you will have some sort of noise. And noise again in optical fiber also is a problem. There are many other problems also. We will not talk here in detail, but I think we'll have a course on optical fiber. Wireless electromagnetic channels. Wireless, everyone is familiar with now, from radio to, you can say, our now mobile. In this communication system, electromagnetic energy is coupled to the propagating media by antenna, which serves as a radiator. So any wireless transmission will have some, you can say, antenna radiating part. Now the physical size and configuration of the antenna depends primarily on the frequency of the operation. To obtain an efficient radiation, antenna must be near about at least 1/10 or 1/4 normally. The lambda by 4 is considered to be. I think in analog modulation, you must have studied what was the need to have analog modulation.
So
I
to
hope.
reduce the antenna size.
Yes, that's correct. In fact, one of the motivation was to reduce, because if you calculate, let's say at, 2 meg, you can say some 1000 kilohertz, frequency, if you calculate the lambda size, it is very high. So if you lambda by 4 minimum, wavelength, if you calculate, it becomes hundreds of meter. Hundreds of meter, you can't have a, antenna size of 100 of meter, and you can't handle it, in fact. So what was the solution? Solution was to translate this frequency to higher, so that if I calculate the lambda 4 at, you can say, 1500 kilohertz or maybe 2 megahertz or something, or 90 megahertz, this size gets reduced and it becomes, you can say, a realistic proposition to build it up. That was one of the reason, in fact, for analog, modulation. So that happens in all wireless devices. Now, this is a big now area also again for, you can say, all kind of, systems that are being designed wireless, whether it's a GPS or whether it's other services. I think probably imagination or people are, working on. Yes, the student, yes, excuse me a bit. I mean, हाँ मधुसूदन, हाँ, hello. देखो मैं देखता हूँ भाई, अभी बात करता हूँ, है ना? ठीक ठीक ठीक. So I mean, these are some of, you can say, the developments. Why I was giving again, you can say, because most of the nowadays wireless devices are very lightweight and they operate across, you can say, lots of frequencies. So how do we make them more efficient, more, you can say, the mode of propagation of electromagnetic waves in the atmosphere and free space may be divided into 3 categories: ground wave propagation, sky wave propagation, and line of sight. I think you will study more about it in maybe in another courses, like, you can say, wave propagation courses, where your you can say your radio signal, you can say the signal comes to you through ground wave propagation. Ground wave propagation means the signal moves across around the ground, you can say, level. So you might say, why it is moving across the ground wave propagation, you can say, and what kind of, polarization it will have. You can say, because if you have in electromagnetics, you have already studied that if any electric component across a conductor, how much it is, tangential component is how, that's a 0. So sir, ground wave propagation, this should be, electric field is 0. That means there should be no, current, and there should be no propagation. Logically, if you think about if you use your knowledge of electromagnetic course, you can understand groundwater. So what we have is a normal, you can say, polarization. So the wave, you can say, electric field vector is perpendicular to the ground surface, so that it doesn't get, you can say, reduced to 0. And that's one of, some other prerequisites. We'll study more about it in other courses. Skywave, you know about ham radio? How many of you know about? I think we have a ham radio probably facility also. Students, you know a little bit of ham radio?
Yes,
All
sir.
of, huh? Yes, somebody said yes. What is it? Ham radio.
Sir, I've heard about that term, but I don't know
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Any other student, please? Ham radio. These were very popular in, you can say, Europe or US or across the globe. Ham radio is some sort of, you can say, amateur radio club, where the student or the people across the world could, talk across the globe. In fact, you could talk to somebody sitting in Europe, or there are, of course, licenses you have to take on. And so this ham radio is, I mean, normally university level, student program. A student want to connect to, you can say, across the, nowadays, you can say, maybe around 50 years back or 60 years back, there was hardly internet. So how people used to connect to each other? Because of the curiosity, or because of, some information sharing. So that's one of the free of cost information sharing, you can say. So what is skywave propagation? This ham radio is based on, you transmit from your earth, and then the signal gets reflected from the ionosphere layer. Ionosphere layer, that is, I think, if you read about earth atmosphere, you have a layer of ionized charge. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Many might be knowing at least it. And again, it's a very, very interesting to know. I mean, somebody asks you, how can charges remain, survive in isolation? Because charge neutrality condition is a fundamental, you can say, rule. So how can charge survive there? So lot many things, perhaps, if you want to know about all these areas, at least skywave propagation. But the wave, you can see, get reflected, and then you can connect to, depending upon the particular codes or defined to that, like your OTPs you have. Radio people also have their licenses, their numbers, and then they identify themselves, and then they connect to the other person. and they can keep on talking. In fact, why I am giving this to you also, because ham radio was used in many of the natural disastrous conditions, like in a hilly areas. If suppose there is some earthquake or there is some landslide, or I mean, all your communication links are, you can say, I mean, destroyed. What do you do? How do you reach to the people? You don't even know what is happening there. Nowadays we have satellite phone. That's one you can say. But sometimes satellite phone also, the services, how do you commission immediately? People don't have, how many of us have, satellite radio handsets or something? We hardly anyone. So like in Gujarat, if you read about, there was a massive earthquake, I think around some 30 years back, and then there was no line connections. In fact, all communication links were destroyed, and because you need to provide relief to people immediately after the this kind of, you can say, disaster. Outside world didn't know what is happening there, what kind of losses have taken place, who is under the debris, or who is surviving, or what is happening. I mean, nothing in fact was known. What kind of relief you can send or you can do on. And this is where this ham radio was a, you can say, very, very useful tool, in fact, so that at least some information could come on, what is the condition, what is the situation. Otherwise, of course, you have to rush on, because your road links are also damaged. You can't even travel on the roads also immediately. So these are some of, you can say, the different kind of this technology help into in disastrous conditions. Line of sight communication, each one of you know that one transmitting station can see the other receiving station. Line of sight means it is visible from the other side. So that's why we have, you can say, high, like in the railway, if you go on railway tracks, you will have some transmitter at some height, and that you will have the next station, or maybe after 30-40 kilometers you will have another, because this line of sight communication was very popular. Like in earlier days, when we have, this is more covered in microwave links. I think microwave, if you study about, so line of sight, you may normally use microwave frequencies. Near about 80 kilometer, 90 kilometer link you can have. So you can have communication link, you can say voice transmission can be, I mean, any kind of, control signals or any other information you want to transmit, that is possible. But that's also used still across the world, this line of transmission. This is used very, you can say, effectively. Now, these are the frequency radios. I think I talked in the last lecture also. Like, what are frequency ranges? Like millimeter waves. Millimeter waves now, we are talking about, you can say, now your 5G communication. Millimeter wave. If you have studied about millimeter wave propagation, so that's about 1 centimeter, wavelength they have. Less than 1 centimeter. So less than 1 centimeter signal, how it will travel, let's say in our city, if you want to have 5G services, then 10 centimeter, near about, you have super high frequencies. Of course, this classification, different books have different classification, but the purpose is same. Like you have ultra high frequencies, which are, you can say, less than 1 meter, then very high VHF. That is very, widely used. In fact, VHF is used by the defense, or you can say all our airport landing systems or this thing. So this is less than 10 meter, and then high frequency you have less than 100 meters, medium frequencies, low frequencies you have, where you have, you can say, less than 10 kilometer, and very low frequency also, which are, somebody said yesterday, like your sonar or others we use there. These low frequency signal for water communication. So what are the different applications? Look here, low frequency are used for aeronautical navigation, radio teletypes. Okay, so all kind of navigations normally in the sea are used through this particular low frequencies. Then medium frequency are used for AM broadcast, and then high frequency for business amateur radio, like as a citizen bands, that's amateur radio, ham radios, or you can say. So near about 4-5 megahertz, that's the frequency that they operate. And many of might be thinking also, like suppose how does the satellite signal goes, how the GPS signal is passing through ionosphere. So you should understand that ionosphere can only, you can say, reflect a signal up to some frequency. So it can't reflect, you can say, beyond 10-15 megahertz. And the satellite signals are in gigahertz, normally C band, L band, or Ku band. So they travel across this particular layer. Of course, maybe some other issues are there related to that, but that's a different matter. But they can pass on through that layer. Then very high frequencies, upper you have mobile and aeronautical. UHF TV and mobile radio, you have near about ultra high frequencies. That's about, you can say, 800, 900 mobile radios, GSM. The services that started is 900 megahertz around. And then you have radar satellites, like in super high frequencies, or this particular gigahertz frequencies, experimental navigation, satellites to satellite, satellite to satellite, microwave relays, earth stations, radar, mobile radio also now, as I said earlier on. So this is the different application you can understand. At different frequency spectrums, different applications are used, you can say. So our radios can transmit, you can say, at few hundred kilohertz, you can say, or near about 1 megahertz AM stations or something. And not only that, you should understand that there are international agreements also. You might say that, sir, why can't we use any spectrum we want? And another aspect, students, who is the originator of the spectrum? Where from the spectrum comes? Who is the originator? स्पेक्ट्रम कहाँ से आया?
सर आइजैक न्यूटन के एक्सपेरिमेंट से।
नहीं बेटा, नहीं, no, that's
It's
not
Maxwell.
correct. No,
Maxwell.
no, not Maxwell or something. This spectrum, yes. Any few more students, if they want to reply. It's a natural gifted, you can say, to human mankind. Nature has gifted this,
Rainbow.
No, not rainbow or this thing, you can say. Of course, that's part of, you can say, this particular, color combinations. But nature has gifted this particular, you can say, this gift to the human mankind. It's all natural. It's all provided by the nature. And we earn a lot of money. In fact, you must have read about it. A licensing band costs thousands of crore to these mobile operators. So nature has given us free of cost, but we have put some, money tag on that, like many other things. So this is a big lesson, So many things we are getting without even asking, you can say. Nature never asks anyone, should I give you a spectrum or not? It's a little bit of, you can say, a philosophical side of, you can say, this kind of consumer, or, this monetary world now. Everything is based on economics. So you see other aspect also, like you are getting so many things free of, given by somebody. Maybe nature, or maybe by God, you can say that way. So this is, frequency ranges, microwave radio, shortwave radios, long wave radios. These are some combination. Now, these are the ground wave propagations. As I said, I think we will study more about it. Like when the earth, this, you can say, it moves, and the dominant mode propagation frequency is the medium frequency band, 0.3 to 3 megahertz. And this frequency used for AM broadcasting and maritime radio broadcasting also, because your ports, mostly, near about, you use some low frequency signals. Atmospheric noises are then man-made noises, thermal noise. I think these are skywave propagation, as I said. These particularly, if you make a transmitter from here, this gets reflected, and then the whole earth can be covered. In fact, the range, you can say, it can go on. So suppose you are sitting in, you can say, in India, you can link with somebody sitting in, maybe Brazil, or maybe you can say Argentina. So it can cover the whole of the globe, depending upon of course, there are certain, you can say, defining principles also from that. But and this, I think, this is all about communication. Underwater acoustic, I want to discuss a little bit. Electromagnetic waves do not propagate over long distances underwater, except in very low frequencies. But the transmission of signal in such low frequencies is very, very expensive because of the large and powerful transmitter required. Okay, because signal, you can say, the sea water is salty, and it's a conductor, in fact. Okay, so you need large, transmitter power. Large transmitter power, like I said earlier on, it's a big area now for research, because many of the things are, you are getting only through sea, you can say. Sea trade is obviously a little bit very, very high. In fact, nowadays. Hello. Thank you. Okay. Now my voice is audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, a little bit of disturbances, some phone calls from office or something. But anyway, we can continue where we were, working on this particular. Little bit of, you can say, disturbances anyway, but let us start again. I was talking about this, you can say this particular acoustic underwater, you can say, communications. This underwater communications, in fact, at low frequency, very expensive because of the large and powerful transmitter required. And again, because most of these devices that we use in sea, like whether it's a ship or something, you can't have a constant power supply there. That is why they're so bulky. In fact, you might have seen it. They're so heavy because they have to carry on. You can say all your generators or all other, you can say, fuel or something based upon whatever they are using, and it's an expensive proposition, you can say. So similarly about the transmitter also, suppose a ship captain wants to communicate with the other ship captain. How do they communicate? What kind of mode communication may be there? That's again, of course, not maybe we are not directly dealing with such situation, but if you know about it, that will be at least useful to, or many of you students might be, as I said earlier on, like defense nowadays. I don't know how many of you have interest in defense or DRDO's, developments also. Like you have a very, very strong now area of, you can say, defense in sea also. Most of these submarines, most of these, you can say, big ships also, you can say, we have also a lot of our ships, you can say, designed to host on all, you can say, fighter planes or the ammunitions or something. Even missiles can be launched based on the ships now from the submarines. They can have torpedoes, or you can say the kind of missile systems which are used. So a lot of areas, at least if you feel like, sir, this communication attractive to me, and a lot of companies are working on, and we in our country have hardly any infrastructure right now. Most of us, we are importing, in fact. So that may be area to some of the students who are interested in that. But the question here is, in case of seawater, the signal doesn't travel, you can see, very easily. It's characterized by multi-path channels because signal gets reflected, gets scattered from in the sea, at least if you transmit some signal across the surface or the bottom, and this causes signal fading. This is another new concept, in fact, that happens in our wireless systems also. Signal fading, students? Signal fading. Yes? What is signal fading?
Loss of signal strength.
Yes, loss of signal strength. Call drops. If suppose, you might be having a problem like call drops, suddenly the signal of this mobile communication goes away. Have you ever wondered why this is happen? Why does it happen? It doesn't happen in wireline, you can say. So that one of the reason is signal fading also there. Besides, you can say channel capacity issues, or you can say you can say signal service provider issues also, because they have limited, you can say, channels in peak hours. So they do a lot of manipulation there. But this one of the reason is signal fading also. What is the meaning of signal fading is the signal strength at a particular place, it keeps automatically changing because of the multipath effects. In wireless systems, the signal can travel across many paths, and the paths, when they combine at your, you can say, destination, they might constructively add up, or they might be not so constructively add up. So if they don't add up, you can say, not in a constructive manner, obviously there will be problem. The signal strength gets reduced automatically, and if you move a little bit, the signal may be okay. That happens, I think, as I said in last one also, many of the corridors in the hostels, or many in our campus itself, they are not, they don't get a good signal. Okay, And if you move a little bit, you can say to some a little bit of other corridor, things becomes very easy. So you can explain it with signal fading. Now, noise also caused by shrimps, fish, and various mammals near harbors. Hey, there are man-made noises also. Now, storage channels, you all of you know. I think this is again area perhaps which you all of you are familiar about. Magnetic tapes, magnetic discs, optical disc, compact disc. I mean, these are some of the you can say disc. Again, here also because of this information is increasing so fast and so massively, you can say that this storage technology is also having problems. In fact, you might be reading more about it. Process of storing data in any storage device is equivalent to transmitting a signal over a telephone or radio, and the process of reading the data is equivalent to functions performed by the receiver to recover. So this, there is a lot of discussion now. We have in our campus a data center. So where do you store your data? Most of these companies have their, you can say, servers into US. You know why they have their servers? Of course, because besides commercial purposes, it's a technological issue also. Because I mean, the kind of, you can say, storage you require, it's difficult to perhaps think about, at least in some parts of our country. And so, if you look at Google or Amazon or all other, you can say, these multinational companies, they have probably, if you look at their servers capacity and their data storage capacities, it's a mind-boggling. I mean, really, you can say huge capacity they have to build on, and every day this is, you can say, only on increasing. So that's again an area. I don't know how many of you, perhaps this is another facet of communication part. Additive noise by electronic component, of course, you know about. Now, mathematical models, as I said, for any simulation purpose, you have to obviously, I suggested also yesterday, like top ceiling, you read about a book like how do I mathematically model. So models that are available are additive noise channels, like I said, EWGN, linear filter channels. I mean, the channels behave as a low frequency, like your twisted pair transmission line. And linear time invariant filter channels, I mean, the signal, you can say, is invariant to the, you can say, the whenever it travels. So this is the additive noise. Like suppose my signal is ST, this is my channel. So this is an anti is my noise. Now, if additive noise channel, what it will do, the output will be signal plus noise. So this becomes additive noise channel. This RT, I mean, the resultant signal will be my signal plus noise signal. The simplest mathematical model, signal ST is corrupted by noise NT from any source. If the noise introduced by the electrical device, it may be characterized as thermal noise, the type of, as we talked, Gaussian noise process, and model is called additive Gaussian noise channel. In fact, additive Gaussian noise channel is the simplest and still most, you can say, most of the simulation in wireless are done based on additive Gaussian noise channel. Of course, in wireless channels, and then you add up fading, you add up some many other, you can say distributions also, like Rayleigh distribution, Rayleigh distributions, Nakagami distribution. There are many distribution functions, but Gaussian is the mostly used. When the signal is attenuated, add up alpha, I think you can understand and appreciate it. So this is linear filter channel. So if a signal, if I pass on through a linear filter, so it limits, you can say, its frequency operation. And then you can say we put into some, you can say, corresponding channel, and that signal is, you can say, ST convolved with this, you can linear filter, transfer function, and then plus noise. So these are the wireline telephone lines. I mean, obviously they are low frequency signals. The channel output signal you can represent in this form, and that's the impulse response. CT is the impulse response of the linear filter. Understand? I hope you understand impulse response. And what is the meaning of impulse response of a, let's say, a filter or any other channel? Impulse response. You must have studied in amplifiers or this thing also. No?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you must have studied. What is impulse response? What is the meaning of impulse response? And why do we calculate it?
Sir, del, उसका area 1 होता है.
Yes, but that's a delta function. But why do we calculate impulse response? Impulse, that is impulse, but I'm talking about impulse response. So a channel can have an impulse response, or has, in fact. beforehand we know about it, how the channel is behaving. So that's what the impulse response. And why do we calculate that? That's important because we want to obviously at least estimate that what will happen to my signal if a signal is passing through such an impulse response channel. So we calculate that, you can say, impulse response to predict or estimate our signal, at least this is linear time variant filter channels, like, wireless channels, where you have tau also, and your time also. So tau means, you can say, there's some delays, multi-part delays, acoustic, or, so we calculate this time variant impulse. Anyway, this will be more study about wireless. This is all about today. Any questions you want to ask? This is a brief, you can say, idea about communication, you can say, systems. Yes, please. Any question, students? We are having the group that is coming on Monday for the lab also, this digital communication. We are having this particular widget also of NBA. Somebody has told you? Students?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. At least then you should know about, your course objective. You can read on the website also, or departmental, and in the labs also they have provided now. Because I hope you, and I can explain in another 1 minute or two, this is outcome-based education. Outcome means, a lot of industry people say that the quality of the students, or quality of engineering students, or particularly, graduates, any kind of graduates, that is not up to a level. So in developed country like in US or other things, they propose this Washington Accord, so that they will not allow students which do not come normally from countries which do not have this kind of accord. So Washington Accord, one condition is this outcome-based education. So to benefit our students, so that the student don't face any problem, at least our student, wherever they want to go. And so this Washington Accord was signed by the Indian government. And one condition was that, of course, you have to have a outcome-based education system. And it's nothing, it's the same education, but only thing is you put some parameters. Okay, so some parameter calculation, some, you can say, paperwork is required, that this marks pass student get this is how do you correlate their different kind of skills with those things. So it's a more, you can say, modeling. And anyway, at least so we accepted it, and now we had in fact done the same exercise in 2008 when I was head of department of the department, you can say. 2008 we got accredited this particular department, and after 2008, only now in 2021, somehow this, after 10-12 years, we are going again for this accreditation. So try to reply to if they happen to interact with you. Okay, students?
Yes, sir.
Any if you can give me send me mail messages also if you have any query or any or you can come to my office also. Whenever you come for lab or some other purpose, if anything is not clear to you. Next topic, we will start with the line code. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.